So I just wanted to talk for a minute about some of the things that are going on in Escambia County and what my dog is in this race. Most people know me from the Billings case, and I guess that's a fair assessment. Um, but that same broken system that made that case such an interest to me um, is what's making other people's lives hell on a daily basis, and that's not acceptable. It shouldn't be churning out victims. It should be churning out justice, and justice is lost in the political arena. There, if you have a personal or a political problem with somebody that's in power, you are likely to become a victim. And you know, who's going to say anything about it? The sheriff will arrest you. The prosecutor will prosecute you, and you don't even have to have evidence. How cool is that? You know. Um, and then with the same argument, they can take a real crime and not investigate it, completely ignore it, act like it didn't happen, and keep criminals on the street. And that's a problem. That is a huge problem. Mark Smith is a good example of that. He was the deputy that was acquitted for having sex with a minor. The truth of the matter is, he drugged her. He lured her over there um, with his own daughter. And then he drugged her, he had sex with her, and he videotaped it. And the sheriff's office destroyed it. Whether it was intentional or unintentional, this guy is walking the streets. And most likely um, could get his job back after all of this because he was acquitted. And he was only acquitted because evidence um, was destroyed either in a training accident, if you believe that, where they had new people and new equipment and something grossly went wrong, or that the tape was intentionally destroyed to serve a political purpose. And that's again another example of of how this works. I mean, take for instance Sheriff Morgan and Ashley Markham, that picture that is infamous, that completely out of character. The sheriff coddling a victim on stage and telling the public, "We got them. We got the people that did this to your parents." Number one, they didn't know that. They thought they had them, and that's where the problem is. There is never room for error in a real justice system. Sometimes you arrest the wrong people. You have a theory, and just because it's plausible doesn't make it accurate. And that's exactly what happened with the Billings case. Um, there were so many other leads that went unfollowed, and that is just unacceptable when you're talking about life and death, especially death, obviously. And then you have people like Eric Haynes who don't think that strong-willed women like me should be speaking out against things he doesn't think I know about. However, I guess taking criminology classes and on the graduate level, and it doesn't mean anything. I'm a student at Vanderbilt, which is in the top 15 schools in the country, and I talk to people that are much more important than Mr. Haynes, and yet you know, because I'm a woman, particularly. Um, I'm crazy. I write salacious things, was the last accusation. Um, and he's mentioned to me that I am a topic of discussion in the sheriff's office. Why? I'm a blogger. All I do is write people's stories, and that usually is counter to what they are doing, which is not doing their jobs. In fact, Mr. Haynes doesn't like to release public records. He likes to play games. He likes to say, he doesn't have to. He's following statutes. And really and truly, he's not. But with no one being concerned about the fact that these people keep breaking the law over and over and over again, um, what recourse do I have? The only thing I can do is to go out of pocket and um, hire an attorney to do a writ of mandamus, which costs a small fortune, and that's just not, it's not worth the hassle. I think this will eventually catch up with them, but it's just a waiting game. Also, I wanted to speak to the fact that that not Eric Haynes, but Chip Simmons, who everybody has said is such a good guy, and he was going to turn the sheriff's department around. And I really, really thought that was a possibility. But now I see that that's not really a possibility. He has fallen into the well, the swamp, so to speak. Maybe he's been there the whole time, just hit it really well. I don't know. But the thing is, you know, this whole donut strike um, that they've been doing lately and having, these little, uh, TV commercials and, well, not commercials, but little episodes and PSAs or whatever they are. Um, they're a colossal waste of time when you think about how dangerous and how crime is going in the city. Now, the first thing that's going to be thrown up here is that the FDLE most recent report claims that crime is down. Well, the problem is, and this is coming from people from the inside of the ECSO, the numbers are being manipulated. Crimes are being played down. You know, robberies are becoming simple theft, petty theft, and things like that, just to create the illusion of something that's going on, which is safer streets, and that's not happening. Um, what I was taught by a criminologist is the best way to gauge those stats for accuracy is to check and keep up with the murder rate and the robbery rate or burglary rate. Because people that lose stuff in a robbery or burglary have, insurance claims. So they have to have paperwork. Those tend to be true numbers. Murders have bodies, so those tend to be true numbers. You can't play down a dead body. Although they can, try to get it ruled as something else, and that would skew the numbers. But that goes beyond that office. So, yeah, I mean, anything's possible in Escambia County when you have the medical examiner who's sleeping with now current Judge David Rimmer. You know, it's crazy. Anything could be possible. I mean, They've ruled at least one death accidental that was not, and that was in Santa Rosa County. That I can speak to. But anyway, the thing is that nobody should have to live under the threat of arrest for coming forward, for speaking up, for telling their story. But a lot of people do. Mr. Morgan likes to play retaliation games. He likes to, he calls it a scorched earth initiative. You don't just get rid of your opponents, you annihilate them. And that's where everything comes to roost, is that you have now a high number of lawsuits of former employees suing because of these acts. I mean, it's a ridiculous amount. It's virtually class action. It really is. They play the numbers and the roles and make up stuff. And you have Eric Haynes, who is a total waste of time. All he does is monitor me in social media and try to figure out a way to trip up people to keep them in line. By using their bad behavior or whatever, he can skew as being bad behavior to his benefit. For about $100,000 a year, I think he's grossly overpaid for that. But again, Chip Simmons making donut videos, I think that's another grossly overpaid thing. And getting back to just the corruptness of the county and the sheriff. I mean, I can't even express to you how insane it is that Sheriff Morgan is not a law enforcement officer. The thing is it would be different if he were cognizant of criminal justice actions and law enforcement behavior, but he's not, and he proved that most recently with the Naomi Jones fiasco, which they arrested the mom when she tried to report her kid missing, and wasted the first at least 12 hours of the time that would have been crucial to the search. And they burned a bridge with the mom, who had information on where the girl was, and possibly could have saved her. But the UCSO screwed that up. But I want to speak to a specific statement that Morgan made when asked in a press conference why someone would kill Naomi, what the motive was. And his grandiose answer was, "I don't care why someone would kill a citizen in my county. I'm just here to catch them." Well, anybody that knows anything about law enforcement or legal precedent or actions or judiciary or anything to do, if you've watched a cop show, you know that the motive of a crime is an indicator of who did it. If it's a sexual crime, you're looking for a sexual predator. If it's somebody that's wanting just a kid, because at the time he said that, we didn't know. Was it an accidental death? Was it a horrific death? And his whole spew about not knowing or not caring why somebody would be murdered in his county, that just made him look like the biggest fool. He should not be wearing that star, because he doesn't understand how it works. motive is everything in crime. Whatever motivates a crime will tell you a lot about who did the crime. And like I said, if you've watched a cop show, you know that. But clearly, not in practice. Um, it's insane. He makes the most ridiculous statements, and now Chip Simmons, has said we caught the monster. The guy that killed Naomi, or who they have arrested for killing Naomi. This man hasn't gone to court yet, and they're saying on the news, which some of it is national, that this guy's a monster, and they're saying it in a definitive way, and they don't understand that being authority figures carries a lot of weight. There are a lot of people who say just because Sheriff Morgan arrested somebody or had somebody arrested, because he can't arrest anybody, that he must be guilty. There must have been information to lead him to this guy. Well, yeah, there was, but there was a reason the FBI came in. And that was mostly because Kloss Kids contacted FDLE, I believe, is how that started. And that was perpetuated from the mom in jail. I mean, that's crazy. She's in jail, and she's still trying to find her kid. And yet, Sheriff Morgan hasn't even taken a report really yet. He hasn't assigned an investigator. He hasn't done anything. And Kloss Kids is involved before they are. That's insane. Especially when they weren't the first point of contact. I mean, just imagine having your kid missing, and if you have some minutia kind of BS warrant for a non-violent, non-drug related crime, and being arrested, and your kid just left to hang, who does that? But that was an executive decision. There are many ways that could have been worked around, at that timing. Yet that didn't happen. Also, we hear about this big budget deficit in the county. Yet we have these commissioners who, are just not thinking. Specifically, Mr. Underhill. Dougie seems to think that busing isn't a right that people should have in Escambia County because the buses are empty. Well, at some points in time, I'm sure they are. And I'm sure that there would be some leeway in changing routes, but to eliminate it altogether, you're putting disadvantaged people and disabled people into an arena of not being able to get to where they need to go. You are purposefully targeting the underprivileged at that point, or the socially responsible who don't have a car. I mean, it just doesn't make good sense. And there are things to do that might, to make the budget more lean. I'm not saying that. But when you have a sheriff's department who's spending all of their law enforcement trust money on, aid to private organizations for political favor, and not on the actual police activities it's supposed to fund. In fact, I've looked at the LAT reports for the last 6 months, or 5 months, I should say, January to May. No money has been spent on equipment, investigations, anything to enhance the department. It's all been spent on private organizations, and at gross amounts. I mean, throwing 20 grand here, 10 grand there. And the thing is he's redistributing the money for, equipment and training and investigations later in the year from, their specified purpose into that account for the purpose of funding political favors. Again, and yet this man is still in office. His accountant is still the guy that let, Kathy Lister get away with what was it, 100 grand or something that she stole from under the ECSO, and he didn't lose his job. Now, if an employee of mine under my oversight stole that much money in a private industry, I would be fired. That's just, because I wasn't doing what I needed to do to preserve, every providence on that. And yet, that's okay. In fact, we're going to let him handle the entire campaign trust as well, because this guy is just a slam bang guy. So anyway, this is my little rant. Like I said, I have family there. I am a Pensacolian, and I hate to see what's happening. And, it's hard for somebody there to stand up because of the retaliation. I live 2 states away. And, 3 states away. And, I think it's easier for me to speak out without the threat of a deputy knocking on my door or having my job threatened or the different things that Morgan does to bully people into submission, because he does do that. He has people followed by deputies. Kim Wyatt at Channel 3 can tell you that. It's ridiculous. And what people don't get is that they could be the next victim. I mean, look at, Ron Clark Ball. I mean, he's a nationally recognized author who pissed off a woman who happened to know, some highfalutin people, and now he's in jail, and he can't get treated like a citizen, even. I mean, the numbers are stacking up against them, and it's going to come tumbling down very soon, and I will be there with a flag, and hopefully watching Mr. Morgan, Mr. Haynes, Mr. Edens, and a litany of other people march into their cell as Pat Gonzalez and Ron Clark Ball and other people come out that have been, just victimized. And Tim Chandler is the latest, and he's a vet. The state actually said in open court that he was a threat. He was a trained assassin or some nonsense like that, a trained killer. And they said that in open court. And this man is literally the nicest guy. And he and his wife have issues, and he's got PTSD, and there's some other stuff going on. But this is a domestic issue, and it shouldn't be a criminal case at all. But his ex, again, knows people, so you can do that. When you have the power or the connection in Pensacola, you can make justice bend to your whim and even to your favor. And that's a problem. And, it could be you. It could be me. It could be my mother. It could be my sister. It could be my brother. It could be anybody that's the next one in jail. And it just doesn't make any sense because nobody's listening to these people. They're just assuming that, the good guys are good guys. But what if they're not? Yeah, I mean, we see that on cop shows all the time. Why can't that happen in real life? A lot of these stories you see on TV, they were based off of real actions. So to think that people could be doing this, it's hard to believe, but it does happen. And Escambia County is ripe with corruption, and it always has been. I mean, look at WD, look at Willie Jr., and even this latest round of charter schools. And, this isn't the first set of charter school that has, fleeced the county. Why is that? I think Jeff Burgosh is stepped into something on that, but the problem is that Mr. Burgosh is just as malleable as David Morgan as far as justice. He's actually an active, or his wife is maybe, in one of my cases. Their influence caused a non-criminal action to become a criminal action. And, when you can target people and you can criminalize anything they do. I mean, think about it. There's some statute that they could bend to arrest anybody virtually. And, if you spin things enough, you can do that. Well, that's what they do. And the bad guys go free. Yeah, so, in a world that I grew up in, that's not the way it works. That's not the way it's supposed to work. The bad guys are supposed to be the ones that are behind bars. The good guys are supposed to be the ones that do the right thing when nobody's looking and nobody's paying them extra to do it. And, that's one of my hallmarks. I don't get paid for what I do. But there's a need for somebody to speak out. There's a need for somebody to stand up. And, if not me, who? And I just, I see too many people unwilling to want to buck the system. But you know what? The human condition on its own is prone to greediness, is prone to indulgence, is prone to not walk the line. That's why we have checks and balances, and journalists are supposed to keep the state in line. That's what the press was designed to be, is a watchdog for the government. But when you have political people like Morgan, who bend the news media, if they don't like a story you say, you do, they don't talk to you. It just doesn't make good sense. It's a popularity contest, and whoever's got the most money wins. And that's not supposed to be justice. This is like, 1920s Chicago kind of corruption. And it's at so many levels. And it's open. I mean, you have, Bill Edens giving his investigators bonuses. He's a state attorney. Bonuses? For what? How do you get a bonus working as an investigator? I mean, your numbers are good. And Randy Crowder had an affidavit or a deposition that he did under oath, where he talks about, they handed me a check and I asked him what for, and Nobody could justify what I did to earn that money. What? What? Again, it's money out of the taxpayers' pockets. I mean, it's systematic, and that's happening at every level. And even the best people, in most cases, are turning blind eyes in other cases. That's the story of Pensacola. I've been told Judge Geeker is such a fair and honest judge by so many people, and I don't want to believe he's crooked, but I see how he's ruled, and I see that his interest is in more in his legacy than in the truth, and that can't happen as if you're a judge, that's not the way it's supposed to work. But anyway, I'm done with my rant. I just wanted to call out a few people and say a few things. I haven't been live in a while, so have a good night, y'all.